Something else that I use amp B for is if I apply a little bit of tube screamer, punch it up a little bit, and again with the coil split and the high pass filter isn't so much essential on this. You might have heard a song, play a song called "Give My Love Away." Something a little bluesier. I usually use a Strat on that, which gets a little bit of a bluesier, punchy neck pickup sound that I really like. So I get a little bit more gain on there, make it just a little bit more aggressive, and I control it with the volume knob. Now I typically don't use the tube screamer too much on amp A unless I want to make some noise, because it does get pretty intense. But it can also get pretty noisy, so I don't do that too often. Amp A is pretty self-explanatory, really, although I do get some nice effects out of it. We have a song you might have heard us play called "Just a Minute." I use the flanger on the beginning of that to get a little feel. And you get a little bit of that kind of spacey sound, a little bit of touch color to it, because if you know the lyrics of the song, it starts with "they're going to raise a little dust, a little tragic lust." I figure let's start the song by raising a little dust. At the end of the song, let's hear the dust settle. So there's a little bit of, that's why I use that, for some dust. I said before I might also use the flanger with amp B to get a little bit chorus. Another thing that I use on amp B, we have a song called "I'll See You," and I usually use 5150 on that, but depending on where it is in the set, I don't want to change guitars a lot, so I'll usually use this one, because right now it's at the front of the set, and I start with this guitar. I'll use the tube screamer on that, and without splitting the pickup and using a humbucker, especially a humbucker as heavy as the one on the 5150, I get something a little bit punchier, kind of like almost like an early kind of Van Halen-y sound, particularly when I use the 5150. Not a ton of gain, but enough to cut you a little bit. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of the kind of thing that I'm shooting for here. All this is really just to facilitate, like I said, facilitate the songs and facilitate my playing and let me get the effects that I want to get out of it. My playing is always going to be me. You know, the only person in the world that plays like me is me. The only person in the world that plays like you is you. And it goes that way for everybody. But like I said, the idea is to just facilitate what I do. Like on amp B, well, that's nice, and we take the delay off it. So if I want to play like a heavy song like number 6, you know, I mean, that kind of works, but it's missing something. So let me go to amp A. We got a little extra punch on there that'll let me do some more of the things that I use on. Get a little bit more of those classic, you know, fast-fingered 80s metal stuff that you know I like so much. Now, the reason that I'm going through all this isn't so you can copy my rig. I would discourage you greatly from doing that. Not because I don't have good stuff and not because I don't know how to get a good guitar sound, but because if you copy my rig, well then you're just playing my stuff. Don't play my stuff, play your stuff, and be unique and look for your own sounds. I can give you some tips though on what to avoid. Like I said, if you're just looking for a ton of distortion, well that's real nice and it sounds cool in your bedroom maybe, but when you get up on stage and the drummer starts playing, nobody's going to hear you, because without some presence and a little bit of body in your sound, you know, it's just noise. And one thing I think is really a big problem is the proliferation of some of these digital processors that just make all these guitar players sound exactly the same, which is not good. I cannot stand, well, you know, I won't be mean and name certain brands that make a lot of amp modelers and a lot of amps with 5,000 presets. My complaint about amps that have a ton of presets is come on, how many of them are you actually going to use? Instead of relying on somebody else's idea of what makes a good guitar sound, or somebody else's amp setting, just get an amp and tweak it until it sounds the way you want it to. That's what I did with this. There are no presets to be had here. And if I do use a preset when I'm recording or something, or anything that I'm using that might deal with presets, it's one that I put in there, not one that somebody else put in there, because I know that that's the way I want to sound, not the way somebody else thinks it should sound. Try to be original and try to come up with your own stuff. Try not to rely on a processor that is going to give you George Lynch's sound, because let me tell you, it's not. It's going to maybe give you something that sounds kind of like George Lynch's sound, but unless you're George Lynch, it's not going to make you play like that, and you're going to be trying to play Mr. Scary, and it's not going to be right, and guess what? It's never going to be, unless you play it your own way and add some of your own touches to it, and then it'll be cool. If you've seen my Summer Song video, which has turned out to be a pretty popular video, you notice that I don't play the song the way Joe does. I do a lot of the stuff he does. It's his song, obviously. I'm covering it, but I add my own touches to it too, and that's why it works. So yeah, there's a little bit of a breakdown of my rig for you. Hope I've given you some ideas of how to approach putting together your own rig. Like I said, I would encourage you to, try to keep it simple. If you have 200 pedals, well, you're just going to be breaking your own back trying to get everything to work. I mean, I didn't have to spend weeks learning how to use this rig because there were so many computers in it that I don't know exactly how it's all set up. This is very simple, yet it's versatile. I can get all kinds of sounds out of here, and I can even do some, my instrumental stuff and music that's heavier than what we usually do with NYBD out of this if I wanted to. I could get a pretty good that'll work, but that's not what I had in mind when I designed this. What I had in mind when I designed this was NYBD's music. And if you want to hear NYBD's music, if you haven't already, like I said, you can check out our website and make sure you come and see us if we're playing in your neighborhood. We will rock your world. I guarantee you that. It's pretty much all there is to say. That's my rig. That's the stuff I use. I guess I should also mention I like these, you can see on my other camera angle here, these huge Dunlop picks. These purple turtle picks, 2mm. I like them because they wear down. If you ever used a Fender pick or something like that and they get jagged as you play and they cut your strings, this one wears down nice and smooth, and it's heavy so it doesn't flex when I pick fast. I use the Dario 9s on all my guitars. I generally prefer Duncan and DiMarzio pickups, but I'll use anything that sounds good and any kind of guitar that sounds good, even though this is my favorite. And that's pretty much it. And my rig will evolve over time as my playing evolves. It's only natural. But for now, that's what I'm using, and that's where these sounds are coming from. Oh, one other thing. I'm using a Shure SM57 here on amp B and a Samson S1 on amp A. And usually SM57 gets a great sound, but oddly enough, I tend to like the sound of the Samson better when I'm recording. So, but again, that's just me. I also have a Sennheiser that I use, and that one I'm not using at the moment. But yeah, that's it. There's my sound for you. All the rest comes from right here. I'm DeNicola, and I'll see you next time. Flanger.